Hey guys, how's it going? This is Natinator. Welcome back to your weekly dose of Creepypasta. So today's story was a request from a viewer on last week's video, so thank you for bringing this one to my attention. You guys can feel free to recommend any stories that you think would be good to be narrated in the comments, and I'll check them out. Before we roll into the story, I want to give a humble thank you to the members of the Coven over on Patreon. Shoutouts as always to the Disciples, Tiffany, Backwards D-Dog, Vera Ohio, Jelly, Jim Jam Bonks, Amberly Perry, Teddy Dog, Brooklyn Gonzalez, Patrick White, Jacob Stringfellow, Becca Puff, and Jacob Nasa. Thank you guys 1,000 times over. I appreciate the heck out of you. Now, as always, turn out the lights, get comfortable, and let the story begin. I recently moved into a big house. Just temporarily. It's kind of a complicated situation. The house belongs to a family member. They're gonna be gone for a few months, that sort of thing. I was gonna be there on my own, so I was a little nervous. There wasn't anything in the house when I moved in. There is now. I was in the main hallway, unpacking some stuff, when the doorbell rang. And that put me on edge right away because the house is at the end of a long drive and kind of out of the way. You basically have to go looking for this house to find it. There was an old woman at the door. This was in broad daylight, but there was still something kind of off about her. She was really tall, like a full head taller than me, and there was something weird about the way she looked, like none of her clothes even fit her properly. She shook my hand and smiled, told me she was from the neighborhood council or something. She asked if she could come in and talk to me. My gut reaction was to say no, but I couldn't really think of a reason to. She was just an old woman. What was she gonna do? I really wish I'd slammed the door in her face. I brought her into the living room and she sort of tiptoed behind me, like her feet didn't fit into her shoes properly. She sat down without asking and grinned at me until I took a seat across from her. For about half a minute she didn't say anything, just smiled and stared at me while I got increasingly awkward. Just as I was about to break the silence, she fished for something in her pocket and pulled out this really big, old-fashioned sweet, the type that comes in a see-through wrapper. "Here," she said. I should probably point out that she spoke very quietly, so it was difficult to hear anything she said. I accepted this sweet and unwrapped it. It was dark red, almost black. I put it in my mouth. She was still grinning at me and nodding her head. Have you ever walked around behind a supermarket where they keep the big bins where they throw meat that's gone bad? Imagine that rancid smell, but on a hot summer day. It's so thick you can almost feel it in the air. That's what the sweet tasted like. I wanted to spit the thing out on the floor, but social niceties made me chew the thing and force it down my throat. The woman was talking all the time, but between the awful taste and her quiet voice, I barely heard her. My mouth tasted like rotten meat, so I politely told her I was going to get some water and ran into the kitchen. When I came back, she was gone. I'd been in the kitchen for less than 30 seconds. My first reaction probably should have been to assume that she went to the bathroom. I had to leave in a hurry, so instead I searched the entire house. I went through every single room, convinced I was going to open a closet or look under a bed and see her stuffed in there, grinning at me. That didn't happen, obviously, but I was still extremely on edge. As the sun started to go down that night, I propped a chair against my bedroom door, because I just couldn't shake the feeling that the woman was still in the house somewhere, hiding. I woke up at around 2 in the morning and heard creaking floorboards downstairs. It was just an old house and unfamiliar. I kept telling myself that until the noises stopped. When I woke up the next morning, there was a dark red sweet on the living room table. Now I'll tell you the same thing I told the police. I couldn't be absolutely certain that this sweet wasn't there the day before. Maybe I just overlooked it, but I really didn't think so. Well, they told me that the organization the woman claimed to come from didn't actually exist, and I was clearly wasting their time. After they left, I searched the entire house again and the grounds. Then I searched them a second time. By the time I was finished, I managed to calm down a bit and look at the situation rationally. The woman probably left the suite there the previous day, and I just didn't notice. I'd searched the whole house twice now. There was nowhere she could possibly be hiding. She's probably just some doddery old lady who wandered off. I was in the kitchen as I prepared to go to bed. I'd managed to fully delude myself into thinking nothing strange was going on. I decided not to do anything childish like blocking my door again, because what was there to be afraid of? Even if she was somehow still inside the house somewhere, she's just an old lady after all. At some point in the middle of the night, I woke up abruptly. Somehow I knew in the back of my mind that something was wrong. I guess I must have heard something in my sleep. I turned onto my side and reached out to turn on the bedside lamp, groping around because I was in an unfamiliar room. When the light came on, I saw the old woman standing right next to my bed. I only got a glimpse of her because as soon as I screamed, she scuttled backward and out the door really fast. I only got the briefest glimpse of her before she vanished into the unlit hallway just outside my door. You know, I now believe that the human brain has a special compartment for dealing with experiences far outside the realm of the natural. If I had woken up to find a burglar in my room, I probably would have gone numb with panic. I'd be too paralyzed with fear to do anything at all. But as soon as I saw the woman, and the way she scuttled out of the room with such unnatural speed, that special compartment took over. I jumped out of bed, slammed the door shut, and shoved a chair up against the handle. Then I dashed for my phone. No signal, no internet. Later, I did find out that there was nothing wrong with the phone or the local servers. I have to think that she was interfering with it somehow. The drop from the bedroom window wasn't too high. If I landed just right, I'd probably avoid injury. But what if I sprained an ankle or broke my leg? I had a sudden vision of dragging myself across the dark garden while the woman stalked after me, and I decided I didn't want to risk that. Now that gave me two options: wait out the night in my bedroom, or try to get out of the house now. I went for the second one. I figured that my makeshift barricade wouldn't hold if the woman decided she really wanted back in. I broke one of the chair legs off and crept slowly into the hallway, reaching carefully for the light switch. When I pressed it, the lights came on for a second and then faded out. I flicked the switch a few more times. Some gut instinct told me she was sabotaging it somehow. I used my phone for light as I slowly, quietly crept along the upstairs hallway and down the stairs. The light barely traced the shapes of the walls in the dark, yawning frames of open doorways. I jumped at every single shadow and unidentifiable shade, certain that any second, that grinning face would appear out of the darkness. I got downstairs to the front door. I double-locked it and put the chain in place. Just as I was reaching for the first lock, I heard rapid, uneven footsteps at the top of the stairs approaching swiftly. As I undid the first lock, a high-pitched shriek came from halfway down the stairs and I screamed. I undid the second lock and wrenched the door open. But it was stuck. I'd forgotten the chain. I glanced behind me and saw the tall, spindly sheath of a woman, half running, half falling down the stairs toward me with her head lolling backward and her mouth hanging open. I can't even remember getting the chain off. I might actually have just yanked the door open so hard that I broke it. In any case, I was blessed. The woman had her face inches away from me as I slammed the door shut. I sprinted to the nearest house and called the police while half delirious with fear and babbling incoherently. The police once again failed to find anything unusual. It's been a week. I'm staying at a friend's place, sleeping with the lights on and the bedroom door barricaded. The house's real owners aren't back yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to tell them, but I have to stop them from going back there. Somehow, this isn't a haunting. It's an infestation. And I can't stop thinking about all of the holes in our defenses, the windows and doors left open, the strangers we invited into our living rooms. I just hope to God it's the house she wanted and not me.